I invite you to stand if you want to, or stretch, whatever you want to do. And we won't shake hands, but if you want to give each other a bow, please include the gift of a smile. Okay, let's see how many we've got here. We got 22 online. We've got about that many here, don't we? 24 and 22. That's a pretty good night. It's going to have to stay one way or the other, because I've done this in storms before when you don't know what's going to happen next. Thank you, Elaine. Perfect. Okay, you folks on the internet, is the sound okay? Okay, I don't have the mic on. Are you guys okay here? Or do you want the mic? Back. You okay without the mic? Okay, well, it's sitting there somewhere. I'll just turn it on and not put it over here. Well, welcome. Glad you're here. Who's here for the first time? Thank you for being here. You guys see the hands, make sure they feel welcome, or as best we can anyway. I'm Larry Dawalt, and tonight is the fourth talk in our 2022 Summer Sutta series. And this talk tonight is the cultivation of happiness for lay people. Some thoughts on the Dighajanu Sutta. The Dighajanu Sutta, and I'm going to try to say it the same way every time, but if I mess up, just think cultivation of happiness for lay people. This is the one for us, or one of the ones. It's from the Book of Eights in the Anguttara Nikaya, which is known as the Numerical Discourses of the Buddha. One of the 5 books that make up the Sutta Pitaka. The 3 divisions of the Buddhist writings that make up the Theravadan canon, and these 5 are a part of that. The other books known as the Nikayas are the Dighajanu Nikaya, which is the long discourses. If you're looking on Amazon, that's how it would perhaps be listed. The Samyutta Nikaya, the connected discourses. The Khuddaka Nikaya, which is the minor collection. And then the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length discourses. And these are the big books that you'll see Dharma leaders at times bringing in. If you go on retreat, you might see those as well. And if you're going to buy one, the first one that I would suggest would be the middle length discourses, the Majjhima Nikaya, as it contains several of the most significant suttas, like the Sammaditthi Sutta on right view, and the Satipatthana Sutta on the 4 foundations of mindfulness. One of the suttas in the middle length discourses, it's listed as MN3, the Dhammadayata Sutta, is subtitled Errors in the Teaching. And it's an important one for what we've been doing in this series, because it's a discourse from the Venerable Sariputta on how our inheritance from the Buddha is the teaching of the spiritual path. This is what you got left in the will. You got left these wonderful discourses we did. And in that, the Buddha invites his listeners to be my heirs in the Dharma. Tonight's sutta, the Dighajanu Sutta, is AN 854. And so if you're in the Anguttara Nikaya, it's the numerical. So you'll go to the Book of Eights, number 54. and that's where you'll find it. It goes by 3 different names, but I'm going by this name because of the 3 names. This is the easiest one to pronounce. So that's a good reason for me. But don't get discouraged if you cannot pronounce the Pali titles. Just read the English titles and go on. And this sutta is important in that it's on the list of the 20 most important suttas in the Pali Canon for lay Buddhists. So these aren't monastic rules. These are rules that we are to follow. It was also important at the time of its delivery because it was a further distinction of the middle way, teaching listeners to avoid the 2 extremes of self-indulgence on one hand and self-mortification on the other, and find a way in between. Here's how it starts. I have heard that on one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling among the Kolalans. Now, the Kolalans have a town named Kakarapata. There, Dighajanu went to the Blessed One, and on arrival, having bowed down to the Blessed One, he sat to one side. As he was sitting there, he said to the Blessed One, "We are lay people, enjoying sensuality, living crowded with spouses and children, using fine fabrics and sandalwood, wearing garlands, scents, and creams, handling gold and silver. May the Blessed One teach the Dharma for those like us, for our happiness and well-being in this life, for our happiness and well-being in lives to come." 4 conditions conduce to a householder's wealth and happiness in this very life, responded the Buddha. Which 4? The accomplishment of persistent effort, the accomplishment of watchfulness, good friendship, and balanced livelihood. Persistent effort means maintaining courage and determination to do well and be our best at all times. Stay focused on hard work. Try to avoid discouragement. And don't just do our jobs halfway. The sutta says, by whatever activity a householder earns living, whether by farming, by trading, by rearing cattle, by archery, by service under the king, or by any other kind of craft, at that he becomes skillful and is not lazy. He's endowed with the power of discernment as to the proper ways and means. He's able to carry out and allocate duties. This is called the accomplishment of persistent effort. We aren't always good at persistent effort. Wouldn't getting rich quick be the easier way to go? And yes, I know the Mega Millions jackpot is over $1 billion, but you're not going to get that much. But whatever you do get is going to be taxed by the Sangha. And I'm kidding. Erase that from the tape. But Joey, wouldn't it be nice to have this great big center? Okay, I'll shut up. But we're not talking about wealth here. We're talking about a way to happiness. And there is a joy in a day's hard work. Before he became a Christian minister, my father was a farmer in Indiana. Corn, pigs, chickens, cows, they did it all. It smelled like pigs to me. It smelled like money to him. The Buddha is saying that happiness comes from a job well done. And I remember specifically my dad being joyfully tired, weary in well doing. How about the next one, the accomplishment of watchfulness? Herein, Dighajanu, the sutta reads, whatsoever wealth a householder is in possession of, attained by effort, collected by strength of arm, by the sweat of brow, justly acquired by right means, such he husbands well by guarding and watching, so that kings would not seize it, thieves would not steal it, fire would not burn it, water would not carry it away, nor ill-disposed heirs remove it. This is the accomplishment of watchfulness. In today's language, watchfulness means we take care of what we've earned. We protect our gains through effort and use them for our comfort. We manage what we have, including our time. When I think of this, I think of the importance of changing the oil in my car. I have service contracts at my house on everything because I don't know nothing. But I know if I make a phone call and I pay a certain amount of money every year, somebody who knows that will come out. And especially if they're a part of the community, that might be one of my neighbors. Maintenance. I don't sew, but I do try to take care of my clothes. I've actually learned that if you are washing, if you take the lights and put them in one pile, and you take the darks and put them in the other, not only will you get a better wash, but you won't receive any sort of thought or criticism from other people who perhaps live in your house. Isn't that a great discovery? Watchfulness. You earned it. Take care of it. As for good friendship, the Sutta states, in whatsoever village or market town a householder dwells, he associates, converses, engages in discussions with householders or householders' sons, whether young and highly cultured or old and highly cultured, full of faith, full of virtue, full of charity, full of wisdom, acting in accordance with the faith of the faithful, the virtue of the virtuous, the charity of the charitable, the wisdom of the wise. This is called good friendship. This is an extremely important part of the sutta and one that can certainly lead to happiness and well-being in our lives. The Pali translation here is Kalyana Mata, or in IMCC language, KM, as in KM groups. This is where KM comes from. Heard some good teaching on this last week from the Bhante they call Bhante S. at the Bhavana Society in West Virginia. From his book, Views Beyond Perception, he writes, we all need good friends. We need wholesome good friends. The Buddha appreciated having good friends. Good friends are people who like our shadow, a shadow that never leaves us, whether in happy or unhappy times, in any situation. Good friends always come to us to help us. They protect and help us and stay with us through any difficulties. We need to have these kind of friends because we are social beings. We like living together with others, not alone. Good friends are those friends who have confidence in us. We also need good friends to keep us from getting isolated and lonely. I touched on this recently in an article that'll be published in the next edition of All About Seniors magazine. In Eleanor Rigby, the article we'll read, the Beatles sang, all the lonely people, where do they all come from? and I'm not going to sing the rest because I pitched that way too high. All the lonely people, where do they all belong? We know where millions of the lonely people have come from. They've come as the result of past years of societal imposed social isolation. We, since March of 2020, have been in many ways all the lonely people. But there are other situations other than the pandemic that contribute to loneliness and social isolation: illness, disability, introversion, relocating to a new community or a senior community, living in a rural environment, becoming a caregiver, poverty, being single, becoming a parent, aging, losing mental capacity, losing the ability to drive, being different, being estranged from family and many others. People can be lonely in small towns, but people can be alone in big cities. Just because you have people walking beside you doesn't mean you are connected. Good friendship is about getting and staying connected, and one of the best ways to do it is right here. Part of the Sangha. These are like-minded people. These are people you want to get to know. These are people who will bring happiness and be there when things aren't as happy. The last of the four conditions listed is balanced livelihood. What is balanced livelihood? The sutta reads, a householder, knowing his income and expenses, leads a balanced life, neither extravagant nor miserly, knowing that thus his income will stand in excess of expenses, but not expenses in excess of income. I'm reading this in my mother's voice. It just sounds like me. Just as the goldsmith or an apprentice of his knows on holding up a balance that by so much it has dipped down, by so much it has tilted up. Even so, a householder, knowing his income and expenses, leads a balanced life, neither extravagant nor miserly, knowing that thus income will stand in excess of expenses, but not expenses in excess of income. So what is the Buddha saying? Don't try to keep up with the Joneses, whoever they are. Live within your means and you'll be happier than you would if you tried to live above your means. Now, when I was a young man, first getting started, balancing the budget was like singing a Broadway tune. To dream the impossible dream. But in time, I learned more. I know what restaurants I like to eat at, and I know what restaurants I probably shouldn't be in, unless, of course, it is restaurant week. And you can go high dollar. Living within your means, you'll be happier than when you try to live above your means. And don't worry about what other people think. One of the greatest phrases I've read in the last month or so is this: you can't control what others think of you, but you can control what you think of yourself. Can't control what others think of you, but you can control what you think of yourself. To the best of your ability, make the decisions it takes to be happy when it comes to spending. So these are the four qualities that lead to a layperson's happiness and well-being in life. The sutta goes on, I'm going to go quickly through these, to talk about 4 other qualities. 4 conditions, the sutta writes, to a householder's wealth and happiness in his future life. Which 4? The accomplishment of faith, the accomplishment of virtue, the accomplishment of charity, the accomplishment of wisdom. By faith, the sutta is referring to confidence in the teachings of the Dharma, that we are on the right path. The last of the 5 hindrances is, who's got it? Doubt. There you go. And doubt can really get in our minds and start cluttering. And we start this conversation back and forth. But this faith is that we have found a path in such a way, a middle way, that we can follow and we can learn from it through experience, not necessarily by code or by creed. Virtue is referring to the 5 precepts: abstaining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, wrong speech, and from intoxicants that cause infatuation and heedlessness. Doesn't necessarily mean we're all teetotalers, but it does mean we know what heedlessness is, and we know when it comes into our life. Charity, delight in generosity, attending to the needy, delight in the distribution of alms, dana, of time, as well as material gifts. And then wisdom, the development of penetrating insight that leads to the destruction of suffering, following this Dharma path. The last thing I would want to say about this sutta and all suttas in general is that they bring about the opportunity for us to move wisdom from the historical past to our present experience. We can't leave them back there. At the retreat last week, I got to meet Bhante Ji, the Venerable Bhante Gunaratana. And he gave some of the wisest words I've ever heard about the Dhamma. In his quiet, broken Sri Lankan English, spoken with the gentle voice of one who is 94 years old, he simply said, "Don't read the suttas as if the Buddha was talking to them. Read the suttas as if the Buddha is talking to you. Don't read the suttas as if the Buddha was talking to them. Read the suttas as if he was talking to you. Not them, you."